Hey, what's happening, Wargamers? Here I am again, trying this for a second time for my thoughts and impressions of the 8th edition Grey Knight Codex. For those of you who did happen to catch it, I did put a video out there. However, I think in my haste to try and get it done, uh, there was a couple issues. I got a couple things wrong in it that were kind of integral, and anyone who was looking to this for some real useful information would be led astray by that. So I'm trying this for a second time. Hopefully, going to get the content much more accurate this time around. But as a result, I'm also going to split this up into two videos. So the first one I'm going to be talking about some of the changes and the units, and then the second video I'm going to talk a little bit more about things like um, the stratagems and some of the things that we can actually do with the army now, and some thoughts on maybe how they all work together. So this is going to be kind of review light. There are people out there, those in the competitive scene, who probably have a much better grasp of the current meta, of the current situation on how everything plays. That if you're looking for really competitive advice, there's definitely ones out there that you can do that. I'm going to come this from the standpoint of somebody who has been playing Grey Knight since, the Demon Hunters Codex, like almost 20 years ago at this point. And so there's a little bit of casual in here, a little bit of competitive in here. But this basically, it's just thoughts, impressions, and whatnot. So right off the get-go, I want to get this out of the way. The Grey Knight book is going to be a mid-tier book. I would not expect it to blow up the competitive scene in any way. For one very simple reason, it's a small elite army. The way 8th edition has been going, hordes have definitely been a big, important thing to do, or at least lots of bodies on the table, simply because you can put out so many wounds these days that you need to have those wounds on the table. And unfortunately for a Grey Knight army, even at 2,000 points, you're not getting the bodies on the table. You're not getting those huge numbers that you need to really sort of hammer things through. That's not to say that Grey Knights can't be competitive. Someone who knows what they're doing with Grey Knights, who knows what the army is capable of, they can really do some mean things with it. In your local meta, I mean, you might be able to really take your Grey Knights and run with it. I know locally when I play, I don't want to say the guys I play with struggle against it, but I'm definitely able to make them work for any potential victories that they get, or any potential objective points that they get. And as somebody who's played Grey Knights for a long time, that's kind of nice. It's pared down from 5th edition, where they were just terribly overpowered and broken, but it definitely feels like a bit of a step up from 6th edition in the old Demon Hunter books, where there's actually a little bit of edge to them, which is kind of nice. So right off the bat, you look through the book, and first off, here we go, nice pretty book. Yeah, I did splurge for the collector's edition one. And if they do something like that for the Sisters of Battle, I'll probably do the same for that as well. So right off the bat, we see a lot of the roles for the Grey Knights have sort of been shifted around. I would honestly say that there's only a handful of units in the book that are, in my opinion, must take, bring them on the table every single game. There's some that have transferred over, and some surprising ones. So I'm going to take this sort of slot by slot, starting with the troop slot. And this is actually where we get one of the biggest shifts in power. For the past while, I mean, it was always, you took Terminators. Terminators were your troops. Their 2-up save kept them on the table longer. Their Terminator armor allowed them to be firing their heavy weapons without I've already forgotten it now that the edition is done, without snap shooting. And it made them just the go-to. There was no thinking about it. Terminators were the troop choice you took. However, in this edition, they no longer benefit from being able to fire heavy weapons without any sort of negatives. They're expensive, and all they really have to show for it is a second wound. Which, don't get me wrong, a second wound on Terminators is something I've been advocating for a long time. Although I would have preferred to see a jump in toughness. But the Terminators just aren't worth it, not in this edition. Whereas you take the Strike Squad, and the Strike Squads have just gained so much utility this edition. They're decently priced. I mean, they're still expensive for as far as a toughness 4 power armor 1 wound marine goes. But because of the tools they now have at their disposal, Storm Bolters have become amazingly more potent this edition, being able to basically double tap within a half range. Their psychic powers, they have more utility in that regard for their psychic abilities, which really nice. Uh, and just in general, they just seem to fit that role a little bit more. You combine that with the guaranteed deep strike range of 9.01 inches, and you have yourself an incredibly solid troop choice. And it just gets even better that if you can make that initial charge off as well, so you deep strike in, you can make your charge. They're no slouches in close combat either. Like every one of their weapons can deal quite a bit of damage. It's eating through a lot of armor. You can really punch through a unit, and even sometimes punch above their weight as well, especially with some modifiers. But we'll go into that with the next video. And yeah, strike squads have really become effective. They have made it into every single list I've run in this edition so far, except for my first list where I was still trying to really push the Terminators. But after really looking at the numbers, even going back to the index, Strike Squad Marines, they are where it's at for this edition for your go-to troop for the Grey Knights. The next slot up, you have your fast attack slot, and this really hasn't changed at all. It's your interceptors. One of the big differences now is their shunt move has basically become almost a redeployment. So you're no longer governed by that 30 inches. Instead, you just pick them up and put them back down somewhere 9 inches away from an enemy model. Again, no real big difference there. If you can make your charges, awesome. If you can't, you're gonna suffer a little bit for that one. But they're basically strike squads with the ability to redeploy at some point in the middle of the game, which can be very useful for objective grabbing. Your next slot up is going to be your heavy slot, and you're looking at things like your Nemesis Dread Knights. You're looking at your Land Raiders. So again, very very typical stuff. Oh, and your Purgation squads. So yeah, very typical stuff. Land Raiders I haven't really played around with a lot this edition, but I really enjoy the new profile that they have kicking around. Having a toughness value, having a lot more wounds, really helps the Land Raider, helps vehicles in general on the table. I'm still not sold if the price is worth what you're paying for it, but I do plan on playing around with that a little bit more. I do really like the fact that because of the keyword system, they can actually benefit from a couple of the other shenanigans that you can run in the army. So really nice. Nemesis Dread Knights, I mean, not much to say about them. They are and continue to be really solid. The new degrading profile that monstrous creatures have, and vehicles have for that matter, can kind of hurt them. They're no longer as effective for as long as they used to be. But honestly, if you're looking for something that packs a lot of punch, Nemesis Dread Knights are still where it's at. Their weapons are still very strong, both melee and shooting, and they can absorb a lot of firepower, which is always really important in this edition. Although, of course, if you're being focused down with things like las cannons, you still might have a bad day with them. One thing I have noted about the Nemesis Dread Knight, and almost any unit in Grey Knights so far, I don't know where Flamers really fit in with this list anymore. One of the big things that I used to love to do with my Grey Knights in the previous editions was throw incinerators on everything, and then just do a Hail Mary deep strike and try and just get as close as I could to the enemy unit and just hit them with the incinerators. Now, because you're governed by that 9.01 range for your deep strike, you're always going to be out of range of most of your Flamers. And as a result, you have to weather that incoming storm of fire before your Flamers really take effect. And yeah, I don't know where they're at right now. So I found that on the Dread Knight, of course I've glued them all on, so got to get some new Dread Knights. But the Gatling Silencer has found new life as a result. It fires just a hail of firepower. It's still nothing to write home about in terms of strength or armor piercing, but just the weight of fires. I mean, you can throw that at most infantry squads, and you're gonna do some hurt, which is really nice. You have your Purgation squad. Again, not much has really changed there. They're your heavy weapon guys. You're gonna toss them on a backfield objective somewhere, and probably just let them plug away at things at a distance the entire time. Again, Gatling silencers or side cannons are your bread and butter for this one. They do benefit quite a bit from one of the psychic powers, Astral Aim, which again we'll go into the more details in a little bit down the road. But the ability to hide behind a wall out of line of sight and just continue to pepper an enemy unit with firepower, really good, really useful. So that's the elites. We have flyers, and this is another section of the book that has actually really been expanded for the Grey Knights really nicely. We used to just have our Storm Raven for the flyer, and I mean that was always sort of a workhorse. Become a lot better in this edition, I think. But we've also got the addition of the Storm Talon and Stormhawk Interceptor. I don't know why I keep having trouble with that name. And really nice additions. I mean, if you're just looking for a cheaper flyer that acts as a gunship, I mean your Stormhawk Interceptor or even the Storm Talon, they're going to do the job for you. They have a nice armament. They got their missiles. They got their las cannons. So yeah, they can put some good hurt on them. Now the Stormhawk does edge out the Storm Talon just a little bit, given the fact that it's got a slightly better profile in terms of toughness and a little bit of a heavier armament. But honestly, I think if you're looking for any flyers, they're all really going to do well. And I think the only reason why you're going to take one over another is maybe you need a little extra points to free up some spot, or you want to run them in pairs, or you want the Storm Raven for its transport capacity. So really solid. But definitely all three flyers worth taking a look at. I've really been digging the Storm Raven, the way it functions now. I mean, the Hurricane Bolters are absolutely astounding. You're paying 8 points for 2 sets of Hurricane Bolters, and you're just dishing out the firepower with it, which is great. You combine that with the way Power of the Machine Spear operates now, where it ignores the restrictions on heavy weapons firing with movement, so you're still getting your full ballistic skill. Again, really nice. You can get your anti-tank on there. You can gun it up for anti-infantry, and you can use it for dropping off your troops. So I mean, the Storm Raven is once again fantastic unit. I love them. I've loved them since they've come out. I mean, I'm sitting on 4 of them at the moment, and I kind of want to get at least 2 more. Not that I'll ever really be able to get to use them all, but yeah, the flyer section really benefited this edition. So really solid, definitely worth looking up. Dedicated transports. You got your Rhino, you got your Razorback. Again, they benefit from the new profiles, the degrading profiles and whatnot. They're on the table a little bit longer. You have a little bit more ability to get your units across the table, which is really nice. Razorbacks, though, are definitely the standout in this slot, simply because of the changes to a lot of weapons. You toss an assault cannon, the twin-linked assault cannon onto the Razorback, and you're pumping out 12 shots, 12 strength 6 shots at a fairly good range, and it's a great little bit of extra anti-infantry for not too many more points. I think it's about 90 some points, 91 points or something like that. I'm probably off by a little bit, but it's an excellent option to put into your list, especially if you need that extra little bit of anti-infantry, or you need to get that extra las cannon in somewhere. So Razorbacks, fantastic. If you're taking small squads that can benefit from the smaller transport capacity, I say go for it. If you're just looking for an extra little bit of firepower, go for it. Like, these things are fantastic. Not only that, but if what you can do is you can pair it with Astral Aim, move them forward, use it as a wall for your unit, put your unit behind it, and then Astral Aim them up and just fire around line of sight. So yeah, I mean, Razorbacks, great, fantastic units. You got the elites, and I think this is another area where we've seen some stuff get shaken up. First off, we now have the addition of the ancients, both Brotherhood Ancient and Paladin Ancient. Yeah, it's the 2 ancients. Basically, one's a basic Terminator, one is a Paladin style Terminator Ancient, and these are great for their little stat bubble of an extra attack for anything within 6 inches of them in melee. I mean, when you absolutely have to mow through your enemy units, having that extra attack is just, it can be a game changer. I mean, you take a unit of paladins which has, I believe it's 3 attacks base, and then you add in a falchion for 4 attacks, and then you have the Brotherhood Ancient banner kicking around, and so you now have a unit of 5 paladins dishing out 20-25 attacks on the charge. In fact, I'm actually going to quickly double check that one because that was actually one of the things I screwed up the last time there. Yeah, they are 3 attacks base. And that gives you so much more ability to chew through enemy units, which is fantastic. And with the way character rules work now, it's not too hard to keep your character protected and still be within 6 inches of the unit. So honestly, I feel like a Brotherhood Ancient or a Paladin Ancient or whichever Ancient you choose is definitely a worthwhile addition. Just a fantastic little bit of a stat booster, and it just gives you that much more punch. Paladins obviously are absolutely phenomenal. They've been great in previous editions. They continue to be great in this edition. The fact that they're now sitting on 3 wounds, the extra attacks, absolutely phenomenal. They're the Justicar in the, or I think they call it a Paragon actually, for the Paladins has a hit on a 2+, so you can give them the Demon Hammer without worrying about the -1 to hit, and you're still getting quite a bit of combat effectiveness out of them. Honestly, Paladins are almost a must-take in my mind. They are fantastic. 3 wounds apiece allows them to get across the table. It allows them to weather a lot of small arms fire, especially if you compare it with ability like Sanctuary or Hammer Hand in combat and whatnot. So absolutely great. Paladins basically a must-take in my mind for a lot of lists. I think the real sad story of this edition then comes in the form of Purifiers. Purifiers have always been this really cool unit that the Grey Knights have. They're supposed to be this absolutely, I guess, sanctic unit of Grey Knights. They sort of protect the deepest and darkest secrets on Titan. They've always been the elites. They've always been these great close combat guys. They've always had really cool psychic abilities with Cleansing Flame in the previous edition. And this edition, unfortunately, they're really no better than Strike Squad Marines. They lost their additional attack, which really sucks. I mean, if they had that second attack, I think they would definitely have more of a place in the army. But they don't have it. They lost that second attack. Their Cleansing Flame has been changed. It's no longer just a 9-inch burst around them and hits everything within 9 inches. It still follows regular smite rules in that, it targets the nearest unit. It does more mortal wounds, but at the sake of only being 3 inches. And honestly, that's a very, very short range. Even if you're using the Brother Captain or ability to double that range and whatnot, it's a very short range. You're relying very heavily on trying to get your Purifiers into range to use it. And it's just, they're disappointing. I'm sitting on roughly, I think, like 40-some Purifiers that I made for the old school Apocalypse formation. And I'm honestly looking at a bunch of those Purifiers and I'm thinking about just repainting them into Strike Squad Marines. Simply because they're going to get more utility out of this edition. We'll see if things change on them, but right now they're just expensive power armor Marines, which are really unfortunate. We move into the HQ section on this one, and I think we've seen a big change with the way a lot of the HQs work, and this mostly comes down to the way characters work. Since you're no longer putting them into units, they have a very different role now. They're no longer just the big beat stick that you put in a unit to hide them until they can hit things with their sword. They now have a much greater battlefield role. And this all comes in the form of the auras. So you have your Grandmasters, which give the 6-inch aura to reroll 1s onto hits, which, absolutely phenomenal when you're usually hitting on 3s. Getting that reroll on if you roll a 1, fantastic. Your Brotherhood Captains, which double the range, the smite range, which can be really good, can be really bad. But I'm going to talk about smite in a little bit, especially since Grey Knights get a different version of smite. You have your I can't remember if the Apothecary is an HQ or no. I think the Apothecary is actually an elite. This is all stuff I should be knowing. The Apothecary is. Okay, yeah, so the Apothecary is an elite, not an HQ. The Apothecary is nice. I personally feel the Apothecary is a bit of a red herring unit. I'm going to quickly go back and talk about him in the elite section. I've seen a lot of discussion. I've taken part in a lot of discussion about an Apothecary build and what's better, him or a Brotherhood champion. And the consensus seems to be if you bring the brother or the Apothecary, you want to give him, maybe the Hammer or the Curse of Sacrifice from the relic list, and then you have a mildly points efficient beat stick character. And I don't know. I personally don't see it. Like, his ability is really neat in the ability to regain wounds or bring a model back and whatnot. But then you think about how often that ability is actually going to trigger in a game. And I can't speak for everyone, but a lot of my games have only made it to turn 3, maybe turn 4. So when you're considering you're maybe only getting 3 or 4 turns use out of this ability to regain wounds and whatnot, I just don't feel it's worth it. I feel it's such a red herring of an ability that it's just, it makes me want to take them, but not at the same time. Especially if you're looking for budget characters, and the Brotherhood Champion I just think is so much better. And that actually provides a nice segue there. So let's compare the Brotherhood Champion. I think he's about 15, 20 points more expensive, something in that range. But what you're getting an armor save that's just as good. You're getting a better combat beast. You're getting the heroic stances, either the sword stance or shield stance, which can really be a big difference in combat. You can give him a relic, which is fantastic. Like, honestly, the only real downside of the Brotherhood Champion, I think, is his inability to deep strike in. He doesn't have the rights of teleporting that almost every other unit in the army has. And he is just a fantastic character. He's a fantastic HQ to bring in. And quite frankly, like, he has been in every single one of my lists since the new edition. I personally feel that he has been the biggest winner in the edition changeover. His sword strike allows him to punch well above his weight, adding 1 to his hit rolls. Adding 1 to his wound rolls in combat. So anything toughness 5 and up, he's still wounding on a 4. Once he hits that threshold of 8, he's wounding on 5s. But that's a great little addition right there. I mean, you pair that with Hammerhand, and he's really punching above his weight, even if he's just using the sword. Then his shield stance improves his save rolls by 1 as well. So he's got his 2-up armor save, I believe it is. But where it's really going to matter is his invulnerable save. He's got his Rosarius for a 4-up invulnerable save. And this stance in combat grants him a 3-up invulnerable save, which, again, amazing. It makes him durable. You combine that with the Curse of Sacrifice, where he basically has the 5-up feel no pain on all wounds. And you have a character who's just going to stick around in a fight for an incredibly long time. I mean, I had him in a fight with a Gargantuan Squigoth for, I think, 3 or 4 full game turns, and he was just there dishing out the pain and taking it back and whatnot. And it got to the point where my opponent with his Squigoth actually started focusing on all the stuff around him instead of trying to kill the Brotherhood Champion, just because of how dug in he was. So yeah, you can build a really solid Brotherhood Champion without diving too deep into your points reserves, and without even having to really use a lot of command points. So honestly, I love the Brotherhood Champion. He's fantastic. I honestly feel he's the standout of the codex for me. He's definitely become one of my favorite units, easily. And that's really saying something, considering the next one I'm going to talk about, which is the Grandmaster and Nemesis Dread Knight armor. Now, I mean, I don't know what Games Workshop was thinking with this one, but I'm not going to criticize it. But I mean, a Nemesis Dread Knight on his own was a tough bugger to take down. A Grandmaster on his own was a tough bugger to take down. You now have them both in one unit. And oh man, the larger base for this really gives you an ability or gives you the chance to take advantage of his reroll ones aura that he has, because I mean the base is so big, and then you add 6 inches on top of that, so you can get more of your units taking advantage of it. But he's tough. He hits like a Mack truck. He benefits from the improved stat line of the Grand Master for all that heavy weaponry that a Nemesis Dread Knight can take. And good grief, this thing... You know, a lot of people are gonna say like he is very easily a must-take unit in the army, and honestly, I can't think of a strong argument against that. He really is a phenomenal addition to the Grey Knight Force, and to be honest, the only time I would think of not taking the Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knight is if points didn't allow for it, and even then, I mean, you know, it almost feels like you find a way to add him in. Like he is that good of an addition. But I mean, that's going to be up to your meta and whatnot. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. Definitely recommended. Then of course you have your special characters. I mean, you have Stern, who remains relatively unchanged. The thing that really blows my mind with him though is that he's actually cheaper than a Brotherhood captain. By I think like 7 points, which really kind of blew my mind. He's got all the abilities of a Brotherhood captain, and then he's got his special ability, which is once per phase he can reroll a die, and in doing so, giving your opponent the ability to reroll a die. So you know there's some bookkeeping there, but I mean if you're taking a brother captain, take Stern. I mean, there's no point not to take Stern, aside from the fact that you can't give him a relic or anything like that. Like he has his set warlord traits and gear and whatnot. Yeah, I don't know. Stern, he's there. He's kind of solid. He's kind of neat. I like him. And then you got Drago, and Drago remains as always a beatstick. Like he's tough as nails. He hits hard. I would say he's still probably one of the most effective non-Primarch characters in the game. Obviously, I haven't gone through each and every character, so I'm sure there are some characters out there that can give him a run for his money, hands down. But honestly, you put him in a fight with most other characters, and odds are I think he's going to come out on top. Because obviously he's got his Storm Shield, he's got his Titan Sword. He's just a tough bugger, and then on top of that, he's got the aura ability of rerolling all misses instead of just the ones, which, you know, fantastic ability. That's definitely a great ability. And to me, anytime you can put Drago into your list, he's definitely worthwhile. So I'm gonna cut the first video at this point because I've now gone for close to a half hour, and I've just talked about the units. But yeah, so you know, some of the winners, some of the losers. Winners in this book, I definitely feel things like the Brotherhood Champion, Strike Squad Marines, definitely big winners. I would say that the vehicles, Dreadnoughts, are a little bit more effective because of the new profile. But Razorbacks, definitely worth looking at, definitely worth taking. Some of the disappointments, you know, Purifiers, disappointing. Terminators, kind of disappointing. Really kind of upset on those ones. I wanted them to continue to be good, but there's just better options out there. So that is the quick thoughts and impressions on the actual units for Grey Knights. I am going to put together another video, so you guys can stay tuned for that. It's probably going to be coming in a couple days after this one, and I'll talk about things like the command points, so the stratagems, what you can use with the command points. Talk about the changes to their psychic powers, and maybe just give some thoughts on how I've gone about list building at this point for the new edition. So like I said, you guys can look out for that one. In the meantime, let me know what you think about this video in the comments below. Give some thoughts, because I know anything I say is going to breed some contention from other people, and I always love a good discussion on that regard. So if you disagree with me, if you agree with me, definitely put your comments down below. I look forward to reading them. Definitely let me know what you guys think about this sort of content, what you guys want to see going forward, and definitely be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to make some more content, and having a larger subscribe base, having more people who are interested in seeing content that I put together, definitely helps me justify when it comes to maybe having to put some money into it or something like that. So definitely hit that subscribe button, like the video, and I'll see you guys around next time. As always, happy wargaming.